Lazarus, interdimensional echoes, bridges to the afterlife. And I'm very happy to be introducing a new guest to the symposium. That's Jennie Byers, who is the acclaimed author and spiritual healer, best known for her transformative book, Spirit Reunions, where she shares her personal journey back to source and challenges conventional understandings of reality. And she owns Spirit Reunions Sanctuary, which is a spiritual healing retreat center in East Tennessee, where she facilitates light body NDEs, or near-death experiences. And her unique work involves reactivating multidimensional abilities and attuning individuals to higher dimensional realities. And she serves as a bridge between the dimensions, reuniting families separated by these vast chasms of perceived reality. So, Jennie, very happy to meet you, and thank you for joining Lazarus.
Thank you.
So the introduction, by way of introduction to our conversation today, the discussion is going to take us across the boundaries of our physical existence, exploring innovative techniques that can enhance our understanding of the world around us. And our focus is really set here on this conversation on light body near-death experiences and how they can reactivate multidimensional abilities, allowing us to tap into higher dimensional realities. And we will also unravel the mystique of mastering quantum time, a concept that blurs the lines between consciousness and perceived time, to help us navigate through a world filled with distorted realities and gain a deeper understanding of truth. Is that a fair summary of how we're engaging this?
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Very good. So then my first question to you, Jennie, is how has your mother's influence shaped your spiritual journey, and what pivotal moments led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so first I was actually born more connected in source. So I walked in source as a child. So I have the memories of that. A lot of people do. Some people just don't remember. I was blessed to have the memory of it because I had a mother that was connected. So she kept me in a state of connection. She spoke to me about it. Her grandfather, who was Cherokee and up that line, was a very connected line. So I tell people a lot that I was blessed to have this genetically active in my family line. So when people are using their gifts, and for any of us, if you activate your spiritual gifts, you're going to pass them down. It's one of the beautiful things that we have to offer the prior generations. So I was blessed to have that. I also got lost in the reality, like many of us do, where I fell into the fear, and I was programmed in public school, and just like many of us do. And so that was very purposeful for me in order to find my way back. And so my mother and I did this together. She, in a way, did the same. She got, tied up in life, caught up in things, and she found her way back sooner than I did. And so she kind of pulled me along. She actually didn't intend to live a full life in this reality. So she came to me when I was in my mid-20s and explained that she was going to pass on. And at that time, she said that she saw that we had a soul contract to where we were going to work together to help people connect, help people come back into source that had gotten lost in what she calls the distorted timelines. So at that time, I thought she would lost her mind. I mean, it's really a funny story because I had no idea how that was going to happen, or that I had the ability to do any of those things. So it's been quite a journey. It's been amazing, but she succeeded in what she calls pulling me out. She looked me dead in the eye and she said, "Look, I'm going and I'm going to pull you out." And I knew in the core of my being that this was true. I just didn't understand it. So with her passing, 5 years later, she got leukemia. She was my age. So she died 3 weeks after diagnosis. And as she's laying there in the hospital bed, and the nurse comes in and says, "They're lying to you. Your mother's going, and you need to call the family." I'm crying and I'm holding her hand, and she's, in a state of coma. She really hadn't been talking to me. And she opened one eye and looked at me and she said, "I am not going anywhere. I'm going to be talking to you all the time. I've already told you." that we're going to do this together. So those were the last words she said to me. And
she was conscious that she was dying.
Yes.
Right. She was conscious. That in and of itself is a remarkable thing.
Yes.
That she was conscious of dying, of the process, and lucid enough to be able to invite you to now be awake to the next chapter. That's extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but, at that point, here I am in my 20s, and I am just experiencing the trauma, full trauma. But after that experience, I went back, and I remember the awakening of it hitting me, because it was so powerful and profound that I just laid on the floor crying. And as I'm laying on the floor crying, and I kept saying out loud, I'm not ready. She's my spiritual teacher. I'm not ready. I can't do this without her. And I didn't realize how dependent I was on her. She's my mother, but she was my best friend, but she was also way ahead of me in many ways. So I just thought, I can't go it alone. There's no way that I'm capable of this. So it took me 5 years. So during this process, I want to mention that as a child, I was very connected to Jesus, as I knew Jesus because my dad was a preacher. So God, Jesus really was the same to me, but I could hear that clear as day. I mean, I would be out in nature and I could hear that voice talk to me, and I knew what it was, and it was hilarious. It was funny. It wasn't serious. It was like a cheerleader. And one of the most important things that voice said to me is, you have arrived in a physical reality, and you are so protected, and you are free to experience this reality in any way you choose. And I knew it. That's a knowing. I knew that I was free and that I was protected. And it was like I was in this bubble. And, as I woke up later and realized that I had that message all along, and I, went into the fear and I doubted it and I forgot about it, that voice and that message is with me stronger than ever in every moment of my life, no matter what is going on. So coming back to what I had from the beginning was the key. And Jesus showed up to me. He stood at the end of my bed. He appeared in the physical at the end of my bed when I was getting ready to experience the transition of my mom out of the physical. And all he said when he looked at me was, you have finally come back to me, because I had gotten so far away from him and my connection to him. And I'm not religious. I don't consider myself a Christian or religious. I don't do labels. I just know that energy has been there and supported me from the beginning. So I didn't understand what he meant by that. He said, you finally come back to me. I had no idea what he meant by that. And 6 months later, after she passed, in a vision, he came to me and he walked me to a place where there was what looked like a white church. And he had a hold of my hand and he walked me up to this church, and he looked at me and he smiled, and the vision disappeared. Well, 5 years later, I pull up to this place, and this is the place that he had taken me. And this is the place where he brought me back to her. It was at the top of a mountain in North Carolina, and it was a vortex, and it was a very, very high frequency. And at this time, I knew nothing about frequency, any of it. I'm still learning. I don't understand that my state of being in trauma is preventing my mother from reaching me from the higher dimensions. And so when I get there and this whole energy vortex starts to open my heart, and it starts to bring layers off of my heart so that I can feel again, and then realize that my vibration is coming up, and there she is. She wakes me up at 3 a.m. She's in my face and she says, get up and get a pen and paper. So right. She spoke to me for hours. And the first thing that she said was, your energy field is key for your power and for us being my spirit team, being able to reach you. And she says, you've contracted your field because of fear. She says, push your field out. I can't reach you, because she really does. I tell people it's like she comes in my field and vibrates, and then my vibration, and we speak through that vibration. So that's the way we've continued to work together.
So drill this down. Are we talking clairvoyance here? Are we talking clairaudience? What are we talking? What are the machinations of this interconnect?
I don't see her with my eyes open. And part of that is purposeful. I see with my third eye. So when I close my eyes and I see her through my third eye, she walks each person into my field and I can see that person. But it's really light language. So light language is the language we speak before we come in the body when we leave. So she taught me light language, which is done through the love. And the most important part about this story is the love that I had with her that got me into the higher dimensional vibration and the love field. It's all done through the love. So we intellectualize these things, and I'll often talk about how I do it. But if I'm sitting there with somebody and I'm struggling to connect, my mom's always in my ear saying, it's done through the love. And, they come in, they saturate my entire field with love. So that's always the most important part of it, is that the love for her is what got me back into the source field. It was my love with her.
That's great. And that kind of keys into my next question, which was wanting to ask you about what insights your mother's provided on differentiating between artificial timelines and true source timeline. So how can we stay connected to our true essence in a world that may not necessarily align with it?
So whenever she started really teaching me, and she calls it spirit school, where she would teach me, like she would wake me in the morning and she would give me a lesson, so it's like real school. We've got fictional school, and then you get spirit teaching you, and it's like the real way school should be done. So she would wake me and she would say, there's multiple timelines running, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? All these things were so new for me. And she'd say, and you've got a lot of distorted timelines running. And she said, you need to master your energy field so that you're not vibrating all over the place, that you're keeping a steady vibration in alignment with a higher timeline experience, which she calls living light source timeline, that directly runs from your higher self. And so she just explained that, I have to clear up all these distorted timelines and really collapse them into my greatest potential timeline, so that I'm not scattered, triggered, over, bouncing, what she calls yo-yoing all around vibrationally, and not in control of my own creation, kind of just being drug along by different vibrational experiences that are distorted. So she taught me how to master my vibration in alignment with my highest self, which is through the love, and to only create through living light vibrations. So she taught me by saying, do you see distortion in your reality? I'm just going along. Yeah, I do. And she'd say, okay, what is distorted? And then she would have me repeat it back to her. Well, this, for an example, I had a four-wheeler I'd loaned to the neighbor. Well, one day he calls me and he says it's stolen. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I go and I get the paperwork. And as I'm going to get my paperwork, she said, stop. She said, do you see distortion in your reality? I said, yes. She said, okay, well, what does this look like from your highest vibrational timeline? I said, well, that man didn't steal my four-wheeler. He's healed. And so he's healed in my high timeline, right? So this didn't happen. She said, all right, well, sit down and feel that and get back up on your light timeline. So I did. And then I went down, we filed a sheriff report, a police report. And then I came up, and at 3 a.m, she wakes me up and she says, get up and do that again. And I did. And by the morning, my neighbor texted me and he said, I think I need to see a doctor for real. Your four-wheeler is back.
Wow.
And yeah,
I love this because, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, no, go ahead.
This speaks absolutely to the true form of hyperdimensional physics and how that plays out with the metric of manifesting through the corrected, coherent ideation. I mean, how we own ideation and being the progenitors of the ideas that can then manifest in the field. And that includes erasing wrong action or something that's out of coherence, like the theft of an automobile, which is a very manifest deviation from perfect reality. It's hard, it's real, it's same as getting a disease, could be the same thing. And then to be able to impose on top of that false light reality a higher outcome, and then to manifest it in real time. You're talking about early onset, a revelation of how we manifest the kingdom of heaven on earth.
Right. Absolutely. And she has worked with me so closely to teach me how to do this and get around the boundaries of my mind to understand it was as if that never happened. Yet,
love it.
Yet the sheriff comes up later that day and he says, "What's going on? Your four wheels returned. Do you want to pull back that report?" And I said, "Yes." So it's just a matter of us learning how to come back to our perfected alignment and ourselves, and learning how to consciously be it. Yes, absolutely.
That's beautiful. Well, I just so you know, a beautiful bird has just manifested itself there. I don't know if you can see it at the window. Can you see
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just going to go closer to that window. It's incredibly beautiful bird. And she's just standing there, completely yellow. Can you see her?
Yes, that's
She's
my
gone.
mom's color. That's so funny.
She's
So
gone.
my mom loves yellow. As a child, I always knew my mom's favorite color was yellow. It's so
There
cute.
you go. So beautiful. Okay, loving this. Digging a little further into this, can you explain the merging of dimensions between you and your mother, and how it drives your mission to reconnect families separated by the illusion of death?
Yeah. So one of the most important things she taught me is that death is the biggest fear that we have. It's one of the things that keeps us the most controlled and stuck in a fictional reality. And so she calls this reality artificial as well, fictional, artificial, and it versus the organic reality. And this is what we choose from every moment of our lives, which we're in the linear, or we're in the organic and the quantum. So a lot of the things that she's taught me are how to stay in alignment with the source timeline, where I am not tempted into the illusion of separation, where it which exists in the linear. So with this, with her intention to help humanity on a larger scale through me, she brings people to me so that I can assist them in having an experience with their loved ones who have passed away. So it's not just me sitting there and communicating with them, which I can do, but the next level of this, and this has just happened more recently, where I feel there's this shift that's occurred where people are ready in a way that they were not before.
For sure.
And the higher timelines are emerging. So it's right here. It's easier now for us to access it. So it's the most amazing thing to witness, where people come to my center and I'm able to facilitate a full interaction and communication with them and their loved ones that's experiential for them. It's not just something that's...
Can you give an example? Can you give me a harsh example, or a stark example of that?
Yeah. So when they come, I will move them into a state that my mom taught me to move into in order to access the field. So she would teach me how to, first of all, I want to say that I am not a meditator. Meditation was never good for me. And so this is a way for me to get around the meditation thing and help others. I've always felt like there was a distortion in the meditation teachings, because I'd have people that come that have meditated for hours and hours and hours and said, "You mean I could have been doing this all along?"
Right.
Instead of fighting with your mind to quiet. So what they do is they actually, I can move them into a state by talking their amygdala part of their brain, or the ego, or the subconscious, into doing a different job, essentially. Because she's explained to me that we have two parts of the brain. We have the amygdala, which is like the computer interface. It's like the artificial part of us. And then we have the centrum, which is the God brain, that's always connected to source. Where our focus is what our experience is. So we have the linear and the quantum within our own mind. And so she's taught me how to work with these parts of my brain, my mind, and she works with me to assist others in doing the same. So as I move them into a space where their minds do the flip, it allows spirit to get to them and take them up. And it's almost like you're going to have a pass for, like a visitor pass for a day. They actually take them up. They have the heaven 5D, whatever you call it, experience. And it is one of the things that's most significant is that they almost always say, this is more real than here.
Right.
And it is. I mean, this is more of an illusionary place. So when they move in light body up and they're having a light body experience, it's not etheric like we would think.
Correct.
It's physical. It's
Correct.
physical. There's another physical reality and we can access it at any time.
Very
and
good.
The idea and the understanding that we can do this is the game changer. And I truly feel like this is the one thing that the fictional reality, the artificial reality doesn't want us to do, because we stop feeding an artificial timeline. She taught me how to stop feeding my artificial timelines. She taught me how to collapse them into the source timeline. Literally, you have to, this is a process we have to do in our own lives for our own selves. And then the more of us do this, the more it ends on the mass scale. It, you know, because we're upholding that, those fictional timelines, we're feeding them, we're co-creating them. Right.
Very good. Very good. I like this because everything that you're saying is for me underscoring so much of the metric that I've been espousing for many years, and I'm loving it. It really does all come to the seat of witness, the throne of witness, and how we engage that throne of witness in the perfect geometry of now, because that's the only place wherein we have access to the coherence, that umbilical that directs us, connects us directly to source consciousness. So I'm absolutely loving what you're saying. Can you share some information about your work at the Spirit Reunions Sanctuary, and how does it facilitate higher dimensional experiences and encourage living in alignment with source consciousness?
So I feel like the center was gifted to me by spirit. So it's really theirs. Like I say, you know, although I am a part of it, I feel like the center itself is dedicated and ran by my mother and spirit. And I'm able to allow them to guide. Even when people come, they will hear my mom sometimes wake up in the night and she'll talk to them. She's so hilarious because she's so passionate about this. This was what she wanted to do when she was alive. And she was a little ahead of her time. People weren't ready, you know, so now she gets to be such a part of humanity coming back into the heart and coming back into the love. And she's such a beautiful part of this. So I am here to just help facilitate the higher dimensional. What she says is we build according to their blueprints, and which we have. And, you know, just it's amazing to see what this collective desire is between them and us. But understanding that they play such a beautiful role in what we're doing and where we're headed, and the separation is really not a thing at all. You know, they're so dedicated to us. So the Spirit Reunions is all about reuniting us with spirit and us coming together in a collective effort to do bigger things and rise. And, you know, we have speakers, we do a lot of Native American teachings, we do medicine wheel. We have a beautiful Native American teacher that comes, and, you know, the old ways. I love the old traditional ways. We have a beautiful community, you know, spirit brings. So it's just all divinely in flow, and we have a lot of fun too.
Fantastic. What is the real difference as you see it in, let's go back 100 years, 100 years to 150 years, when there was a kind of, in the Grand Victorian era, there was a tremendous movement for clairvoyancy and psychics and people, you know, gazing into crystal bowls and having seances and trying to connect with spirit, and probably cocking up a lot of the time. But what is the difference in the modalities and techniques that historically were used to connect with spirit, which were always a little bit spooky, you know, and today's the methodologies that you deploy today seem to be so much more serendipitous and peaceable, and there's not an element of spookiness about them at all. Seems to have grown up. Spiritism. What's happened in the last century from then to now, essentially?
Well, part of it that my mom explains is that living light was separated from us. So we were actually not accessing light as much as we are now. The veil is thin. You know, one of the things that I learned when I started communicating with her is I could sit in that field for an hour and then I was exhausted. And so she explained to me that living light is something that we have to work with, adapt our bodies to. So she says that we were so used to being without this light and finding shortcuts to try to get to it.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it wasn't necessarily good shortcuts to get to it. But now
that's beautiful. Sorry to interrupt. That's beautifully explained by your mom. And that to me completely fills in the gaps to my thinking. I really appreciate that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And also it's connected when your mom and you speak in terms of thinning of the veil. Of course, we know that. Just going back to any form of any kind of prophecy that's out there, we know this is the great tribulation, the great reckoning, the great revelation is upon us, and the bifurcation, all of that. But it's also congruent with hard astrophysics of the situation of our plane of existence. Let's not call it a planet, but this plane of existence that upon which we live and play. And enact the tribulations of the trial of separation, which is really essentially the human condition is predicated or has been predicated on that falsity, that notion of the trial of separation. Yeah. But we're on this plane of existence, swinging around in the outer fringes of the Milky Way. And the fact of the matter is that we're impacting the photon band incrementally and exponentially. We have vibral light photon band that issues from the center of the Milky Way is actually impacting us now. And as we swing through this quadrant of the grand precession of the equinox, it's more or less a 200-year period, we move into this fulmination, into this compression point of hard vibral light, which is impacting us. So in a sense, at the physical manifest temporal sense, every atom, every molecule, every cell on and within the plane of existence is being impacted by vibral light in real terms. So it's astrophysics, and it corresponds absolutely to what your mother's divination is. Very beautiful. Could you give us a glimpse into what a journey to heaven entails? Journey to heaven, in parentheses, entails at spirit reunions, and how does it assist in connecting with higher spiritual guidance and navigating the death process in particular?
Yeah, so when people are able to go into the source field and move all of their focus and consciousness into the quantum, outside of linear and into the quantum, they have the most profound experiences. And it is really just like they're going up, they see the light. I mean, the things they describe are just like people describe when they have near-death experiences. They go up, they're taken up by spirit and their loved ones. They come to get them just as if they were passing. They go up, they feel the peace, they feel the love. It's very emotional. And then when they get up there, they land, like their loved ones take them. They land on a plane of existence that they see nature. They see, you know, buildings, you know, there's so many amazing stories that I get to sit and witness. And just the interaction and the communication about what is most important and what is real. And this is also one really amazing. We are being programmed in an artificial reality with information and fear that is not true. It's distorted. We carry these distorted programs. When we move into the source field, it's like a software upgrade. It's like all of a sudden it's replacing the old outdated fear programs, and it happens instantaneously. Yes. And so when people come back from this experience and they sit up and they look at me and they say, how do I stay in this? And I say, well, are you still in it right now? Yes. Then stay in it. Right. You can go up anytime. But what's fascinating is spirit takes them up. So as they come and get them, there's also this attuning process that happens that I witness, where spirit comes and gets them. It's their loved ones, and they take them up, and they are doing things to their physical body and getting their heart open, getting them into a place where they can actually access a higher vibration of unconditional love, so that they can see, feel, all senses activated in a higher dimensional realm, and they can have the full experience. They can hear, see, taste, smell, everything. But there's this attunement, and I witness it, and then everybody's at different levels of being able to have different experiences. But the more they do it, the better they get. And so for me, my purpose in doing this is because we are merging with this timeline anyway, this higher place. So the more we know it, the more we are there, the more we experience it, and it's not just conceptual, the more you actually are integrating the experience, you're going to come back and you're going to create it here.
Very good. That's entirely correct. And what you've just described is really the anchoring patterns of perfection into the temporal realm, which to my mind is precisely why we are incarnated. Is especially this generation is to be the anchor. And it's so beautiful to know that your mother and that echelon of highly evolved souls who crossed the divide and yet are maintaining vigilance in that arena of expression, which is directly connected to every atom and every cell on Earth. I mean, it's right there. There's no time or space between the quanta that your mother and her echelon inhabit as our true guides, and us here still participating to some extent in the devil's in the devil's playground, on the checkerboard of the kingdom of the devil, as I like to put it. So, what unique insights do you have on mastering quantum time and integrating our quantum mind with the linear brain? And what hidden truths about our biofield can thereby be discovered or uncovered through this process?
So one of the things I noticed when I started working with people and taking them, helping them go up into the higher realms, when we'd do a before and after quantum bio feedback, where I can do an aura read. And so when I'm doing those, and it's not just, it's a solfeggio read where I can measure the frequency of their body, so we're able to see in real time how going into the field, going up and having that fifth dimensional experience is affecting their biofield. And it is incredible, because when they come, you see the colors, but when they come back, there's light coming straight out of their head. So you can see how the light is now activated from the crown up. And I have so many photos, and their solfeggios shift and become a higher source connected solfeggio. Yeah. It's so good for us to see this. And one of the things I loved when I went to see William Henry, he's done all of the ancient art. I don't know if you're familiar with all of the research that he's done on the ancient art. It's just fascinating.
I'd love to connect with him on this, incidentally.
Okay. And I can help with that. So I was talking to him about the rainbow light body, because in all of the ancient art, it depicts the rainbow light body, the Buddha, the Christ. William says, they can manipulate the art or the text, but they can't manipulate the art. Right. And so it's really the ascension body, where you've got the rainbow aura, lit up. So I'm seeing it. I showed William, I said, look at this. When people are moving up into the higher dimensional realities, they come back with their rainbow light body activated. So it's so beautiful. It's just so fascinating. We're at a time now where it's getting so exciting. It's getting so much more fun for us to turn our focus to these things, and to get our minds integrated, because it's an integration that happens, so that you're no longer split, and you're no longer in conflict with your own mind, where, I love what happened with my amygdala when I finally got my amygdala to start doing what I told it to do, because it was like a 2-year-old and it really wouldn't listen to me. And when I finally got it to relax, it stops recording reality, and it starts to do this other thing. And it starts to really articulate light language coming in from the centrum part of my brain. And there's this beautiful flow that happens. And I swear I could feel my amygdala breathe a sigh of relief that it was not trying to pilot this journey. It was never meant to, you know?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, it does this job perfectly and beautifully. And it's like there's no fight, there's no struggle. And there's this connection, and it allows this interface in the physical reality. We need it for this interface. We need it for the communication. Is it allows me to articulate light language and bring it into the physical.
Very good. Beautiful. And that, yeah, beautiful. Perfect. Everything in the now, in the actualized now, is perfect always, in all ways. The geometry is perfect of reality. And even the apocalyptic images on the screen of life, which we're being consistently mind fucked into. I mean, look at Palestine, Israel, look at the, Maui wild, the strikes, and all of these godless images that are doing the bidding of the devil and trying to commandeer our senses and to sensationalize reality and have us adrenalized and affixed and addicted to this false light reality. I'm not saying it's not happening in some quanta. Of course it is. There are soul contracts involved. There's a lot of suffrage involved. There is karma, dharma, the wheel of samsara involved in a billion different soul covenants in those arenas of expression, and they are not fun, but you and I must not attune and affix ourselves to them. We are not in that theater, and that theater, we're not going to affect the outcome of that theater by getting sensationally, psycho-emotionally affixed to those images and icons. We're going to become stricken. We're going to become infused with grief and with horror and with fear. And we're going to abnegate our life force and our creative ideation to the Sabbatean agenda and allow the harvest of our life force and plasma to become the utility of the devil and to continue to manifest war, disease, and poverty. So these are the hard facts of how manifestation is understood by lower elemental forces and by so-called evil or dark forces. Understand these machinations. What you're doing and the entirety of the language that you are espousing speaks to affixing our attention, our life force, our God-given plasma into the still point where we become the progenitors of the outcome, because we are refusing to fall victim and be pulled into false light reality. It is so, so important. I mean, the science and the craft of what you're doing and what you're representing. How can the knowledge gained from these experiences be that people that you are working with be applied to changing outcomes in, for instance, Palestine, Israel? Let's use that as a pretty again stark example of false light reality.
Well, we're seeing already the rise in consciousness of humanity where we are not feeding the fiction, where we're looking at it and we're questioning it and we're holding back. Some people are just, observing instead of reacting. And my mom says, as above, so below, follow our lead. We do not have a negative emotional response to lower timeline creation, distorted creation is what she calls it. She says we do not compromise our own vibration and frequency. We offer our love because from their perspective, the source frequencies always cancels out the lower vibration. They cannot be in the same place at the same time.
Very good.
When enough of us hold the higher vibration and we look at
it. Jenny, let's break that down into kind of modern parlance. We can overwrite the narrative, the storyline, the reality narrative. We can overwrite it with higher frequency because that's what higher frequency does. And the old scientific experiment is putting, I think it was feeding a very discordant and distorted cello into a subspace chamber, and that incoherence. So this this subspace chamber was filled, this is a scientific experiment that was done, was filled with these very discordant and distorted frequencies, nasty white noise. And then they fed into that same subspace chamber a perfect top C from a violin. Perfect. There was just one of a cacophony of tones that were fed in, and all the lower vibrational forms ended up moving upward until they nested perfectly into the top C of that violin. So that frequency, which was almost inaudible in the white noise of cacophony, ended up entraining all the lower forms of incoherent, distorted sound into them. And that was, to my mind, a living example in scientific terms of exactly what you're talking about. Beautifully stated.
Yes. I mean, it's so simple. And when we unhook ourselves from all of the complications or all of the attention and focus that goes to anything that is not of light, and she'll say to me, you want discernment. She said, the way she's taught me discernment is, she'll say, when you have mastered being in the lower vibrational timelines, when you can look at the light in it, you can find the light in it, and you can say, okay, here's the light. I'm going to separate the light and I'm going to separate the distortion. Turn your attention to the light. I will only co-create through light. And she keeps it very simple. So we practice this here. This is part of the community here. When people come, we do weekends. We practice,
Very beautiful. And you're open to all ages, all types. What are the criteria?
So right now I just do workshops. I don't really open to just individual retreats. We do groups. It's more effective for us to get together in groups. So I open in the spring, I close in the winter. And so in the spring, in April, we'll open with a new schedule for the workshops and the speakers.
And how many people are normally attending your workshops?
I keep it very small. I keep it to like 6 people for the weekend with me. So one-on-one all weekend with about 6 people.
Fantastic. How can you springboard this? I keep coming to the word craft. I don't mean to turn you into a witch or anything, but it seems to me that it is a craft in the true sense of the word that needs to be relearned. It's retooling humanity to navigate reality and bring coherence into the field. I'm wondering how can you envision taking your craft and what it is that you're dispensing to a far broader audience. Of course, I'm thinking here about the New Earth University and our expanding faculties and how we are taking certain things to a far bigger audience. What are your thoughts there?
So just this year, I was speaking at an event up in North Carolina with it's a larger community, 250 acres. And I was able to journey the entire group. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but my mom has just said, we're going to journey them all. And so it was such a beautiful success that every single person in the room had an experience one-on-one directly with their higher vibrational family. And, so that is powerful. And it tells us that people are ready. For one, people are ready for this.
Yes. Yes.
And so, as many, and I mean, people come here and they learn from me, and then they go back and they are able to facilitate it for others.
Very good. Very good. Perhaps there's a conversation we can pick up vis-a-vis the New Earth University, because I would love to be able to springboard this to a far broader audience. So maybe we can have that conversation. I wanted to ask you about some of the knowledge that you might have gleaned through your understanding, crossing the veil and dealing beyond the indivisible line of life and death. What, in your view, is the extraterrestrial, alien, gray thing? For me, it's very real. In fact, I'm on my way tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn to Mexico City, where again I'll be seeing a private collection of mummified aliens and skulls and codices and extraordinary artifacts, off-world artifacts. I'm engaged with this collection right now, and I'm part of a very serious enterprise or movement toward disclosure. So there's a very real it's a very real matter, the business of extraterrestrial engagements. They're not just fictitious ideas, the UFOs and all of that. What is your understanding of all of that bandwidth of expression? Like, your mum is inhabiting a kind of celestial, angelic realm without any question of doubt, and that those are the true keepers of the gnosis who are helping to anchor this earth now to its true course in the spiral of ascension. But what are your thoughts on the extraterrestrial ET narrative altogether?
Yeah, so I've had a direct experience with ETs. I've had two different times I've had these three beings come to me, and I know them as more of a Syrian. They look Syrian. They speak to me from more about Egyptian type of things. It's interesting, you know, I have the A negative, so I think there's a connection for me to, and I know there is, to that specific ET community. And what they have said to me is they were involved in helping me integrate my minds. They were involved in working with me in a physical capacity of doing things to me physically. They actually healed.
Call it out. Call it out. We're talking about genetic. We're talking about genetic manipulation in order to
Yes.
bring you to formation. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really a purification because of the genetic manipulation. They were kind of undoing things, and they were assisting me in coming back to my greater potential avatar state. My entire body was vibrating so much, and they were doing things to heal all disease and things like that. So they've been working with me as well. They're another big part of this. They did explain that they exist in another plane, dimensional plane on Earth. They didn't tell me they were from another planet. They did tell me they existed on another dimensional plane, that they were involved, very much involved in this physical creation, that they are answering our call for awakening because we have made that call, and they're very, very much dedicated to assisting us in coming into higher states of consciousness and remembering.
Right. So this is fantastic. And what you just said qualifies perfectly the point that I was hoping you would make. Therefore, what is the connection between these benevolent extraterrestrials or non-terrestrials, non-Earth terrestrials, intelligences, and the angelic celestial realms, for instance, that your mother clearly inhabits?
Well, so the way that I understand is that there are multi-dimensional realities and physical dimensional realities. And because we are naturally multi-dimensional beings, we all are, they are, we are, this part of us got kind of dumbed down and disconnected. We're coming back to our multi-dimensional abilities. But this is very normal. These beings interact in multi-dimensions. You know, they can come in, they can physically show up in our dimension and physically leave our dimension. You know, so these are things that are just natural that we've forgotten and we think are incredible and extraordinary, but they're actually our most natural state.
Right.
My mom has talked about that. Mm-hmm.
What add to that? What elaborate on what your mother's perceptions of?
Yeah, so she said that at some point, our bodies, my physical body, will become less dense. She said that I will become almost transparent in some ways, and that's going to be a natural part of the progression for us, and that we will have the ability to move in and out of different physical realities again.
And has she indicated anything that correlates or corresponds to my understanding of the fact that what she's referring to, that is going to be part of a quickening that is going to happen a lot sooner than later?
She told me that this would happen in my lifetime, and she said there's acceleration.
Boom. Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And the testimony and testaments that I've been receiving of late of very enlightened folks who are directly connected to engaging with non-terrestrial intelligences, some of them profoundly benevolent and pure in consciousness. I'm hearing the same thing everywhere, that this quickening is upon us. The meek in that sense are about to inherit the earth. And this is my takeaway, and I'm turning to the audience here. The takeaway here is that the more reductive and pedestrian and psycho-emotionally reactive religious mind, the Christian, Muslim, religious mind must now start to expand, must stop being constricted and constrictive and restrictive in its conceptual conceptual reality, the framing of reality. Because if we are going to hold hard and fast to these constricted ideas that all aliens are demons, and Jesus is going to descend from the clouds to redeem us of our godless sins, if you stick to that kind of reductive bullshit, you are absolutely screwed. You're not going to be able to navigate terribly well in this quickening that's upon us. So the essential frequency and message that issues from you, Jennie, and clearly from your beloved mother, and what a blessing that woman has been and continues to be in your life, and by extension our lives. Thank you, Mum. That incredible frequency that I'm feeling and sensing and reading is anchored in pure remedy and pure healing and pure absolution, and the need to remain seated in that state of grace. If you cannot find that state of serendipity and grace and healing and forgiveness and non-restrictive, non-constricting and restrictive being, that's the key for me right now. We've got to take this away. And that also probably becomes the golden key to us being able to enjoy this incredible realm of expression that you embody and enact and manifest in this world. So Jennie, thank you for a beautiful conversation, and I salute you and I salute your mum, and I hope this is the first of a number of conversations that we'll have. And I also hope that you won't mind if I connect you into Reverend Dr. Nancy Ashe at the New Earth University, because I would love to see where this conversation could go.
I would love that.
Thank you. If there's anything else you wanted to say in closing, please do. I wouldn't mind just hearing your thoughts about the status quo and about how best to redeem ourselves from the false light.
Well, I think the most important thing that I focus on every day is understanding that we all within us have a God spark, and it's a spark that's connected to source at all times. All we have to do is know it's there, activate it, and give it the power, and watch what it does. When you walk with your energy field out really big and intend it out and fill it with light, it goes a step ahead of you everywhere you go, and it clears up anything distorted in its path. We become the alchemists, and we alkalize through our energy field, our energy body. And this is one of the biggest secrets that they've kept from us, is our biofield. It is so powerful, and it keeps us from getting sick. It keeps us protected from lower entities. Yeah. So many things that it's easy and it's simple to work with.
And friends, it also mitigates spike protein replication and weaponized E. coli in the human biology. So we're talking about the God-given, Christed mantle. This is the true mantle, the true plasma field of the actualized human. Jennie, thank you very much indeed. And stay on. We're going to have a little private chat for a moment. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.